And as the controversy surrounding the Aukus deal continues to grow, foreign ministers from EU countries are set to meet to discuss the pact. The bloc's foreign ministers will be meeting on the sidelines of the UNGA. The pact that scuppered a submarine deal between France and Australia. EU's foreign affairs spokesman said discussing the implications of the deal tops the agenda of the meeting. The ties between France and Australia got impacted. Consequences of the pact will be discussed in the meeting, which was scheduled before the Aukus controversy prior to the UNGA's 76th edition. But the secret submarine deal between the UK, US and Australia came much to the dismay of France. It has put it on the top of the agenda. France recalled its envoys from the US in a strong display of displeasure, the absolute secrecy of its allies regarding the deal, along with the loss of an agreed contract worth $37 billion had added to Paris's anger. French Minister for Europe saying Canberra's negotiations with the EU over a deal that started in 2018 may be affected by the Aukus agreement, although none of the EU members have jumped the ship in France's support. The issue is likely to fuel the debate over Europe's strategic autonomy. The EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said that she is keeping a close eye on the results of the pact. The French President Emmanuel Macron is skipping the UNGA summit this year, but his office said this was decided prior to the Aukus controversy. However, when US President Joe Biden requested for a call with him, his office said that it will happen in the coming days.
WION-USA Direct from New York with Susan Tehrani.
And with us on the broadcast are our correspondent Susan Tehrani with us from New York and Siddhant Sibal from Washington, D.C. Coming to you first, Susan, the Aukus deal has been seen as a major step towards countering China, which will be an overarching theme when it comes to the UNGA session as well.
Absolutely. On the sidelines of the UNGA 76, we are expecting EU member states to hold meetings and debates, and the Aukus deal is definitely going to be front and center. And really, it's going to be about settling differences between EU member states and NATO member states within themselves on how they want to move forward, having significant differences, and France being a member of both the EU and NATO member states on how, if and when the United States might want to forge new alliances in the Indo-Pacific region. And while perhaps this rift between France and the United States might be temporary, ultimately moving forward, it's no surprise and no secret that France feels left out of the Indo-Pacific region, and the EU moving forward will have to see how it wants to, first of all, deal with this situation that France has created and within itself, not just in the Indo-Pacific region in general, but, the elephant in the room, encountering China and how much it wants to support the United States moving forward.
Absolutely. And Siddhant, coming to you, we have seen discussions taking place already between the Indian Defence Minister and his American counterpart, Rajnath Singh, holding those discussions with Lloyd Austin, coming at a very significant time right ahead of the UNGA session. Outline for us the key takeaways from those talks.
Well, Molly, before that, there is just the big confirmation coming on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden's meeting. The White House has now confirmed the meeting is going to take place on 24th of this month, on 24th of September. That is Friday. This is the first official confirmation on the date of the bilateral between the two leaders, the first in-person meeting between the two leaders. Both leaders have spoken to each other 3 times. They have participated in the climate meeting hosted by President Biden, and of course the virtual Quad meeting that took place on 12th of March. But now the first confirmation coming from the White House in a statement confirming the two leaders will be meeting with each other on 24th of September. We know that the Indian Prime Minister has been visiting the US since 2014 many times. The last visit was in 2019 when he visited US for the Howdy Modi event, but also had a bilateral with the US President Donald Trump, the then US President Donald Trump. But by and large, if we talk about this relationship and of course the conversation between the Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his counterpart Lloyd Austin, this conversation is part of the growing engagement between the two sides. Remember, the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, the Defense Secretary Austin, in fact the climate envoy John Kerry has been to India 2 times. His last visit to India was last week, but largely this is a relationship that has seen an evolution and exponential growth from the previous administrations, from Obama administration, Trump administration to now Biden administration. The visit comes very early on in the Biden administration, just 7 months into the Biden administration. The visit is happening, and one of the key highlights of the visit, of course, is the Quad meeting, the first in-person Quad meeting. This is something that was being talked about for a long time. It emerged out of the 2004 tsunami that struck the Indian Ocean region, and since then we know the Quad has been working off and on, but now a formalization happening of this grouping of democracies, 4 democracies who of course strongly support the Indo-Pacific, but of course China is worried about it. China sees Quad as a grouping that is anti-China, calling it names, calling it Asian NATO, something that has been dismissed by the Indian side, by the Quad member countries, including the Indian side, as I just said. And the Indian External Affairs Minister, in fact, recently said that this is a Cold War mentality, and this is something that should not be said, because this is convergences of these 4 countries. We know that last meeting that took place, the virtual meeting that took place, the key outcome was on the initiative, the vaccine initiative. Under the vaccine initiative, the American vaccines will be made in India and logistically and financially supported by the Japanese and the Australians.
Right. Susan, if I can come to you also to talk about the agenda that was outlined just a short while back by the United Nations Secretary General, talking about and emphasizing on the need to tackle the climate crisis, which will be another crucial aspect as far as the discussions at the UNGA are concerned.
Absolutely, and we know how important the climate crisis is. While we are in a pandemic continuously that will take center stage, but really member states have been asked by Antonio Guterres to deliberate on 2 parallel challenges, is the way that the Secretary General put it, and that's ending the pandemic and redefining the post-pandemic global economy for a healthier planet being a healthier climate. And through that healthier climate, he's also holding high-level discussions and panels on energy and also food sustainability and security, being a very important issue in this year's UNGA, also relating that to climate as well. A lot of countries being food insecure, a lot of countries and member states suffering from malnutrition as well. So he's really put a spotlight on that, and he's saying that the cause for a lot of these situations really goes back to climate change as well. The big meeting today really centered around Antonio Guterres being co-chaired with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. This is a high-level meeting on climate change. The readout says that they will discuss the need to take, quote, concrete steps, particularly on supporting developing countries to mitigate the impact of climate change and adopt to its consequences. And since we're on the issue of developing countries, it also goes hand in hand in what the UN GA76 wants to see regarding vaccine distribution to less developed countries. The goal really is to get 70% of the global community vaccinated. And, that's a lofty goal perhaps, but that's also something that this year will be on the agenda. Again, a pandemic-centric agenda, hand in hand with climate.
Right, the twin challenges. We're leaving it there for the moment. Susan and Sathan, thanks very much for joining us with those updates and perspectives.